Ladies and gentlemen, here's another experimental snapshot for Minecraft 1.18. I'd say it's new, but it's not really new at this point. This came out almost a week ago while I was on vacation. But I have promised you I'll cover every single snapshot, so even if it's late, here's a video about this one. This third experimental snapshot contains a number of further tweaks to the biome placement. One goal of these changes has been to reduce temperature clashes, which is when a seemingly very warm biome like deserts ends up right next to a seemingly very cold biome like snow plains. Some of the changes for Experimental Snapshot 2 have also been dialed back again, providing for a more random variation of biomes. This means that microbiomes are more likely to happen again, but they're also more likely to be of matching temperatures, like when a small forest biome ends up in the middle of a plains biome. Snowy slopes and snow-capped peaks no longer generate dirt under the snow, for a more snowed over look. There's also a brand new mountain biome called Stony Peaks, which is another variant of the snow-capped and lofty peaks that has a stone and gravel surface instead of snow and ice. You'll find this new biome in peaks in warm places. The peak biomes and meadows are less likely to generate in low elevation on flat areas now, and cliffs in shattered terrain have been smoothed out to look less broken. You can now find some structures in the new mountain biomes. Pillager outposts can generate in all of the new mountain biomes, and villages can now generate in meadows. And goats now spawn properly in the new mountain biomes. The Badlands have been tweaked to now also show up in flat areas next to plateaus, and red sand now generates higher up, which means that you can now find areas with lots of red sand again. Some Biome Placement bug fixes. Eroded Badlands no longer create floating pillars on top of the water surface. Swamps are now less likely to overlap cold or dry biomes, and they no longer place floating water. The risk of river biomes generating in dry mountain gorges has been reduced, and the desert temples now spawn on the surface rather than at a fixed Y level. Some surface generation bugs have also been fixed, with grass no longer generating underwater in some cases, and the risk of incorrect surface placement, such as grass patches being placed in deserts, is now lower. Beaches are now more likely to show up on flat coastlines rather than in hilly areas, and there are more sand beaches and fewer stone shores. In the previous experimental snapshots, there were some issues where aquifers could generate in areas around coasts and rivers, sometimes messing up the coastline. That has been improved in this version, and such areas are less likely to use an aquifer now. In other changes to aquifers, inland low elevation areas are now less likely to have flooded caves all over the place. Aquifers can now go deeper and are more likely to connect with cave systems further down, which means that you can dive into a deep lake on the surface or in a mountain, and if you swim around there, you will now be able to encounter air pockets that can lead to a cave system. The underground areas with aquifers now also have a bit of difference to their randomness. They're now more likely to be randomly spread out instead of being concentrated in one area, which means you're less likely to find a huge area where almost all the caves are flooded. Finally, there are further changes to mob spawning in this experimental snapshot. Mob spawning used to speed up the lower the surface of the world was, and to become slower the higher up the surface was in the location where the mob would spawn. This is no longer the case, and the spawning speed now roughly matches the speed you could previously find at height 64. Another change to spawning is that mobs no longer spawn in a global mob cap, related to the number of players. Instead, each player has their own mob cap, which means that if one player is flying around high above the ground, other players won't get more mobs spawning around them. As before, these experimental snapshots are a separate line of development and are not expected to be compatible with any other version. Do not expect worlds you start in this version to be compatible with future versions. If you have feedback, go post it in the Reddit thread or on the Minecraft feedback site, where the team can see it. I'll include links to both places in the video description. Finally, as with last time, this video uses a modified version of Minecraft 1.17 to showcase how 1.18 could look with shaders. While it might be possible to run this version with shader mods, you won't find a guide of that here. But of course, feel free to post a comment asking about it anyway. All interactions with the video help out in the YouTube algorithm, so I appreciate any comments. My name is Slime, thanks for watching. If you appreciate this video and you haven't done so already, please do poke that like button with a big stick, and while you're at it, consider checking out another of my videos, like this one. Center of house, center of tower, center of house, center of massive dang tower. It's one block off.